I always had an attraction to Vrindavan. And in as early as 1967, I wanted to go to Vrindavan. So I remember one morning, we were on a morning walk with Srila Prabhupada. I believe that was around Stowe Lake. And I was walking right next to Srila Prabhupada. And he stopped. He put out his cane, he was leaning on his cane. And he said, "So, we have received a letter from Achyutananda, and he wants some men to join his party in Lucknow." So I immediately popped up, said, "I'd like to go, Srila Prabhupada. May we go? May Gurdas and I go?" He said, "Yes, maybe we can arrange that. We will start an American house in Lucknow." Then we walked a little farther. Then he said, "No, you should not go now." And he turned around and he said, "Someday I will take you to India on foot. I will show you India on foot." So from that moment I was waiting for that day that would come. And that came about 3 years later, 1970, October 4th. Our party of American and European devotees landed in Bombay, and our party had just a few days earlier arrived in Calcutta via Tokyo, some swamis. And in that fall between October 4th and Srila Prabhupada leaving India in the spring of 71, in so many places he showed us India on foot, literally walking on foot through the streets.
And devotees were about doing the magazines, and I would be with the books, and I'd invariably sell a few or several, and every night, especially Prabhupada would stay up very late, so sometimes we'd come back at 11:30 or something, and Gargamuni would say, "Prabhupada wants to talk to you," and I'd run up, and he'd say, "How many books did you sell, and how did it go, and who were the people, and what did you say to sell them?" So that was interesting. In those days, later on in Sankirtan, people were wearing karmi clothes, or normal clothes, or wearing wigs and disguising it. In those days, we never thought about that, and I used to always tell the people exactly what I'd been hearing in the classes, that this was the Bible from India, and it would explain to you better about your past lives and goals. But Prabhupada, he was very specific. I mean, my recollections of Prabhupada, he was such a detailed person. Nothing escaped him. And if you just said something, and if it was lacking a little bit of substance, Prabhupada wanted to know what I was telling people. And he approved. I mean, I was listening in the classes in the morning, and I was saying things I was hearing, and he approved. But he wanted to know precisely what I was telling people and how it was that I was able to move those books and things like that.
The temple room was full of devotees, and one of the big book distributors asked Prabhupada, kind of a pointed question, "Prabhupada, what pleases you the most?" And Prabhupada said that if you develop your love for Krishna, that will please me the most. And all the devotees, the cooks, the pujaris, were Jai Prabhupada. So that was real nice to hear that.
Buddhimanta especially, rest his soul, was going out onto the streets, and of course he was a very imposing figure. He was very tall and big and bright-faced. He appeared somewhat crazed, I would say. But he was distributing incense, and he was begging for money, really, in a way that we had never done before. But he was collecting a lot of money to help bring this dream about. And I had some differences of opinion about how the money should be collected. Who was I? I mean, I was just really traveling through. But I made it known to some of the devotees that I thought maybe a monk shouldn't act like that. And it was really a bone of contention between Bali Mardan and myself at the time. Of course, we've reconciled that since then. But he called up Srila Prabhupada and talked to Shyam Sundar and objected to my objecting to the way that they were collecting money. And Srila Prabhupada wrote a very instructive letter back. And he didn't criticize either of us. He didn't say, "You're right and you're wrong." Either way, that wasn't his concern at all. He simply said, I just want that you should all be able to get along together. And I think that's very instructive, because we had different ideas about how devotional service should be carried out. And Prabhupada wasn't about to take sides. He rather wanted us to simply work together harmoniously. And it's something that's taken me a long time to understand. But I think that it tells something of his character, that he was more concerned about us working as a family than he was about crediting someone as being right or wrong.
The first San Francisco temple had certain similarities to the first New York temple, but then quite a few dissimilarities. The first being that in New York there were very few women. In San Francisco there was almost an equal balance of men and women. So already the chemistry of the temple was different. But in most places we were like Srila Prabhupada's children. I think the rasa of being children was foremost, although when one studies the letters of this period, we'll also find that sometimes Srila Prabhupada referred to us as his sons and daughters, and sometimes mothers and fathers. He let the role reverse for intimacy. But I think there isn't a devotee from these times, from the early days, who did not feel that every moment with Srila Prabhupada was intimate. Srila Prabhupada had such a way of showing a love and affection through distributing Krishna consciousness that immediately we felt he was the only object of. I'd never known what love was until I met Srila Prabhupada, and I think that was true for all of us. We learned to love each other through Srila Prabhupada, and we had very deep, wonderful, transcendental relationships between each other as God brothers and God sisters. And Srila Prabhupada was the father. That was the mood, at least in our San Francisco temple, and that was slightly different from New York. Because, again, there was a mix of the boys and girls. He called us boys and girls. And we were. Most of us were in our 20s. Between 25 and 30 was the average age of our San Francisco temple.